Thank you, Senator Grassley. Senator Thune is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you and Senator Hatch for holding this hearing. I think all Americans expect the IRS to administer our tax laws in an impartial manner, and they expect the tax preparers to operate in a competent and ethical manner, too. And so the concerns that have been brought to light by the GAO in its recent study are very troubling, and I'm pleased the committee is examining this issue in order to determine if legislative action is necessary to ensure that Americans are protected from unscrupulous and incompetent tax return preparers. I do want to, though, Mr. Koskinen, give you an opportunity. I want to turn to something that's been mentioned here by my colleagues and has been discussed of late, and give you an opportunity to correct the record. Last week, the Washington Post's fact checker, Glenn Kessler, awarded you 3 Pinocchios for your statement that the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, Russell George, had not used the term targeting when referring to how the IRS has treated conservative social welfare groups. The Post article noted that Mr. George specifically stated in his testimony to Congress that the IRS targeted specific groups, I'm quoting now, applying for tax-exempt status. It delayed processing of these groups' applications and requested unnecessary information, as well as subjected these groups to special scrutiny, and that's end quote. And given that the Post article and the confusion around recent statements that you have made on this topic, I want to give you an opportunity to correct the record. And the question, I guess, specifically is, do you agree that the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration has found that certain conservative groups are targeted for extra scrutiny by the IRS?
I appreciate the opportunity to correct the record. It's been intriguing to me that it has become this big issue or tempest in the teapot. What I said in my testimony, which seems to have triggered this, was that the Inspector General's report last May, in his findings, said that he found that inappropriate criteria were used to select applications for further review. It was in response to a question about the findings of the IG, and my point was the IG's finding in the report said it was improper criteria. Thereafter, and I have a couple times since then made it clear, the IG clearly, in his testimony to Congress, used the word targeting. He talked about targeting beforehand. My only point was in response to a question in which they said the Inspector General's finding was targeted. I said his actual finding said improper criteria. Well, one man's improper criteria is another man's targeting. How it got to be this big an issue, I don't know, because clearly the issue is, however you describe it, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't happen going forward in the future. We are committed. We've already taken all of the IG's recommendations and accepted them. We are committed that, as I say, when people, not only for C4 applications, but in any relationship with the IRS, we're going to continue to audit people. Some will be Democrats, some will be Republicans, some will go to church, some won't. When you hear from us, it's only because of something in your tax return. People need to be confident that that's our commitment, that's our general approach to these issues, and that's how we're going to behave going forward.
Just as a follow-up to that, the Post article also referenced to your use of the term targeting, posed this question. Basic question was the phrase so toxic that it was wiped from the lexicon once you arrived at the IRS? And I guess I would just ask, since your confirmation as commissioners, anyone in the administration, within the IRS, the Treasury, White House, any place like that, pressured you or counseled you against using the terms target or targeting in reference to the matter that we're talking about?
No one in the administration. The only concern I've heard, I've been to 20 offices of the IRS now. I've listened to and met with over 8,000 employees. Several of the employees have objected to the use of the term targeting, but nobody in the White House, nobody in the Treasury, nobody in the administration has asked me not to use the word.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I want to just, I've got about a minute left here, focus on what I believe is a major driver of more and more Americans seeking tax preparation assistance, and that's the incredible complexity of the tax code. And as you know, much of the Affordable Care Act is administered through the tax code, which means that when uninsured Americans file their taxes, they're going to need to figure out whether they qualify for the subsidies, how much they can receive, whether it makes more financial and medical sense to get coverage or to pay the penalty for violating the law. Does the question is, doesn't the Affordable Care Act create a lot of new complexity issues on top of those that we already have, making it even more difficult for driving even more Americans to tax preparers when it comes to getting their returns in on time? And do you believe that most tax preparers are adequately prepared to handle the complexities arising from the Affordable Care Act?
I think we're going to have a lot of questions by preparers and taxpayers about the Affordable Care Act. The vast majority of Americans are going to be unaffected by it. They're going to check off a box that says they have insurance, they've got Medicare, and they won't be affected. But for the people who are in the area that are applying for insurance, getting advanced premium credits, there's going to be questions asked. One of our concerns is to make sure we're prepared to answer those questions.
Ms. Olson, quickly on that, do you have a comment?
I think that there is certainly a great deal of complexity in the Affordable Care Act. I would note, and I'm watching very carefully and closely how the IRS is approaching that, also on the compliance side, what they do if somebody owes money as a result of it. But there is one thing about the Affordable Care Act that is very important. We are going to get a lot of information from third parties, which will allow us to identify inaccurate claims during the filing season. And that is very different. As the Commissioner earlier alluded, it's very important for us to get W-2 and 1099 information early in order to avoid all this fraud and errors in the regular tax system. So there's an actual added benefit in the Affordable Care Act that we don't have with the rest of the filing system that would be really good to have in the rest of the filing system.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Thune.